Try to give you a short, brief review of what we have done during last 3-4 years in education, using experimenting methods and methods of primitive technologies as a part of education of young archaeologists. It was a project in 2013. We called it Prehistoric Skills Revival Project. There were couple of institutions involved. Of course, we understand that this way to scientific experiment is not very easy and not very short. We need proper experience before we do that. We need proper education, and only then you can or maybe formulate the problem and then start to find ways how to solve it. And I give lectures also in Faculty of Humanitarian Sciences to cultural anthropologists. One lecture course about biological anthropology, but we have very good common interests in certain aspects, and so the first project was quite successful. The goals were including improving education with archaeological methods, improving the interdisciplinary communication between very close disciplines, and of course communication between institutions. And of course, work with the public, experimenting and learning skills as a popularization for the whole society. Main stages during all those years, more or less the same, remained the same. It was like it wasn't part of lecture course, but in several times students got credits from the university. There was this planning part, theoretical part, visit to museum, lections, we looking at some collections. We also went to Kernave, to Days of Living Archaeology, to see how this could be represented to the wider public, and then in the end we spent 1 week in Artūrs Archaeological Museum Park in central Latvia, in Bronze Age zone, gaining more outdoor skills, basic knowledge of different materials. And it was as an alternative form for the traditional field practice excavations. It's one of the examples of a couple of years ago where this main student group comes. But several of them chose also this project for gaining their credits. Artūrs Museum Park is located here in central part of Latvia. It was excavated and founded by archaeologist Jānis Appels. Artūrs Museum Park is also a founding member of EXARC organization. Since 2008, they are a branch of Latvian National History Museum, and it's famous for its open-air reconstruction of 9th, 10th century Latgalian lake dwelling. But it also has an open-air area for different buildings of more earlier time periods, and this is a building where the participants of the project lived. Ideal reconstruction of Bronze Age building. This is how this theoretical and preparational part looked like. We also visited flint mines in southern Lithuania, because we don't have much flint in Latvia. It's not flint yet, mostly. We need to wait some more million years for it to become. And there were some attempts to formulate the questions before leaving this week out of the city. And basically it was a basic things, basic needs, basic questions like light, water, heat, and basic knowledge of working, some material preparation of some food, some vessels, some basic fishing. Fish, of course, were laughing about our attempts when we tried to catch them with something like that. Rope making, digging, and only in the end lots of those participants understood how this basic knowledge with working with some materials could lead you to that question which is in the base of archaeological experiment. in 2014 we were not so lucky. The state didn't give us money in this competition, but in 2015 there was a second project of that. Only 3 students took it as a field practice, but however it was much different from the previous year. We re-excavated a place where the pottery was burned partially. The rest is still there in the ground. Maybe next year we will continue to look at some features in soil and with the knowledge of what we must find, and some, of course, without that knowledge. We involved more public. Those are 2 anthropology girls. They wrote very good report because they understood how important it is also for their science to get this knowledge how culture is formed and how to interpret the culture. Of course, training them to make some notes and to get hands dirty, how it feels and what you can conclude after that. Re-excavating of the bronze casting place before that, and there is and of course some popularization with the school children. And this year this project grew. It became more bigger. We tried to become more international. We invited 2 of the people who are also present here, thanks Virginia and Guidos, who made this project really sound international, like Baltic Experimental Archaeology School, and we hope it will develop further, also to the north and to the east and to the west. We paid more attention to representing it before. We made more introduction lectures. We made more workshops before we went outside living in this week in Archaeology. Also, there was a place in Lucavsalu Island used in cooperation with one non-governmental organization, Latvia's Archaeoclubs, where there is 1,000 square meters of land mostly for gardening, but now we use also for doing some experiments and building things and testing them before we go living outdoors. We prepared wax models for casting, get some basic skills in flint knapping, and the common number of the lecturers who were involved were not 1 as in first years, but at least 5. Also, a doctor of geology, Riga, helped us for basic things about flints, and we learned some more detailed bronze casting. We have lots of data. More than 20 experiments of bronze casting were done, and I'm somewhere in the middle of deciphering all that. And hopefully next year in Leiden I will give separate report about that. What we can learn through one aspect of this. This is how those data look like, and now at least after some 20 attempts we can explain why this temperature is doing this or this or this, and some additional aspects like air temperature, the humidity also will put into that data. And this year we also went to Kernave second time, and at least two students also took part as a living history and get understanding how it is to be also this exponent in the public event, and when people try to ask you when you don't know anything about that. And then we visited flint mines in southern Lithuania to see how it's found in nature. And the practical part in July this year was quite successful. We lived there for 1 week. We learned lots of different crafts. We had a biologist, geologist, Virginia helped us a lot with different plants and natural materials, and you have seen already this presentation about those natural fibers. How was the references? I guess all the anthropologists were quite satisfied about that. The workshop of twining, some wood cutting with flint axe, some flint workshop. Everyone seems so busy. And some biology lessons, some basic things we find across this lake. Some pottery making basics. This wasn't very successful experiment, and but we know why. Because of those jumping and falling temperatures, this hut was made in very wet conditions, and that's why if we could cast bronze second time, it would be much more nicer and much more better, as we saw in those diagrams before. And making wooden vessels with burning inside. This is from ethnographic parallels, some rope making basics, and popularization with the mass media and visitors of Ārēšu Museum Park. In summary, we can compare a bit the number of students, how it increases, how the number of participants increase, and of course in such a camp we can give only basic understanding of basic materials used in prehistory. However, it doesn't mean that it's not necessary to continue the work, and hopefully next year we will become more international. That university will make it as a lecture course. Hopefully we have this speak with the new dean, and we have a promise so it becomes more serious. However, also without those credit points the project will continue, and so everyone is welcome to take part. We are looking for cooperation partners in different countries, or maybe some lecturers would like to share their experience with us, and let's meet in 2017. Thank you. Суддів явний сесуд.